Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker and I'm your host. And I'm excited every week to bring to you a new guest that's going to help you challenge the way you do things and really step back and work smarter. And today, I'm excited for all you entrepreneurs out there who are running your business and looking for the best way to gain new customers. I have Stormie Andrews with me today, and I'm excited to have him because he has the system for the world's best buyer persona. And he is going to share that with us today to help us to save time, money, and energy by targeting the right people. And that makes all the difference. So Stormie, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me here, Penny. I am super excited to be here with you and your audience. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So tell us just, a short snippet about yourself, and what should the listeners know about you?
Okay, so a few things. So I am the creator of the world's best buyer persona system, and the system's been well regarded within the marketing industry. It's been an Amazon new releases bestseller. The Audible version of the book just came out on October 30th, and it's currently a Amazon new releases bestseller too. So that's super exciting. And the content of the book has been so instrumental and incredible for the marketing community that for 2021 and 2022, Intercom named me one of the top 50 tech visionaries in the world. So it was quite an honor that I'm excited to receive. I've written on the topics of buyer personas for Forbes magazine and other well-known publications. And I believe that, and I have proof behind it because I also own a digital marketing agency, Yoco Local, that when the buyer persona is placed at the hub of your marketing wheel, it's the hub of what you do in regards to your marketing, you're going to save time, you're going to save money, you're going to save energy, and you're going to get to ROI much faster than you would just doing things the way you've always done it.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear more about that. Before we do, why is this important to you? What's the backstory?
So the backstory, it's interesting. I'm 52, and I like to think that I've been building buyer personas longer than anyone else on the planet. And the reason for that is because as a child, my father worked for the government and we moved a lot. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until my 11th and 12th grade year that I experienced what it was like to attend the same school 2 years in a row. I just didn't know what it was like. We moved a lot all over the country. And when we moved, some of the communities we moved into valued education. Some of the communities we moved into valued toughness. So there was a wide range of socioeconomic conditions. And as we moved into these communities with a wide variety of nationalities and backgrounds and so forth, I needed to blend into these communities. As a child, I'm thinking it's for survival. I'm a social creature. I wanted to get to know people. And what I noticed was when I was able to blend into the community quicker, it was a much more enjoyable stay at the community. And what worked in one community wasn't necessarily effective in another community. Now, I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing. It was instinctual. And then once I got older and started learning and about the why and human behavior, I'm like, oh, this explains a lot. So it led me into a successful career in sales training, because one of the things you need to do in regards with sales is get into rapport quickly with people. And that's a skill set that I learned. So when it came to buyer personas, I just had a belief growing up that having the ability of custom tailoring your communication for the benefit of the other person just puts you in a much, much better situation to get into rapport. And when the world went digital, I wondered, how can we do this in the world of digital? And the world's best buyer persona system does exactly that. It helps your digital assets, whether it's your website and social media postings, whatever it may be. It helps you have a greater understanding of who your ideal prospects are so you can attract more of them with your messaging, just as we used to do when we used to meet face to face. Remember when we used to do that?
Yeah, I remember when we used to do that. I miss that.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
there's, different ways to, like you said, in one community or on one platform, certain strategies and techniques are best. And on a different platform, then you might be looking at other things. So that's great. I love that. I think that we all kind of, if we really look at the thread, right, there's a really clear thread how we learn a lesson and then we keep kind of building on top of that. And it creates its own thing, which is so cool. I love to hear how people come to what it is that they're doing.
Exactly. And another side of it, let me ask you a question, Penny. The vast majority of your audience, are they listening to this on a podcast or are they watching the video? Do you know?
Oh, I would say the majority are getting it audio through podcast or one of those types of platforms. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times when people look at me, the other thing, so for those of you on audio, you may not realize this unless you go look me up on the book. And you're like, what does this guy look like? Well, I can pass for a lot of different races and nationalities. And people oftentimes are like, what are you? And in reality, my mom is Black and my biological dad is German. But growing up, I didn't know that about my biological dad. I always just thought I was just a really, really light-skinned Black guy. And that's how I identified because that's all I knew. I didn't find out about my biological dad until a few years ago. But it's one of those scenarios as we moved into different communities, sometimes I had to blend into, like I said, a wide variety of communities and just different cultures and different communities and different backgrounds. Well, it was a very, very powerful and extremely impactful skill set to learn that led me on my path.
Might have been painful at times, but it paid off, right?
Absolutely. It was painful at times.
Yeah. I mean, some of our best lessons are. So anyways, so that's awesome. Great to hear about your background. And, so I was thinking as you were talking and we talked about, how it saves people time and money and energy and in terms of finding the right people and defining that. Before we get to defining it, what do you think is the biggest mistake that people make around their sales process or in defining their persona?
I think the biggest mistake by far, as a matter of fact, I can say this is the biggest mistake because with my agency, we've been in business for 11 years. So I've dealt with thousands of organizations. I speak regularly around the country. And the biggest mistake that organizations make is a tactical approach to their sales and marketing. And, Sun Tzu said it best.
Because I think there's a lot of people listening, and I've worked with a lot of people. I'm sure you've worked with a lot of people, and they think that they're strategic, but they're really tactical. So let's just kind of define that. What does a tactical approach look like, and what does a strategic approach look like so they know the difference?
So a strategic approach, you have to have three elements. You have to have a documented journey, your strategy, right? And that needs to be written. What is the documented journey for this element of your marketing? The other thing you have to identify from that documented journey are what the tools and tactics you're going to use to achieve what you have documented in the journey. And then you also have to have KPIs. You have to measure or at least have a definition of what success is. And you need to have all three of those elements. If you don't, if you're missing one of them, it's truly a tactical approach to marketing. So think about what you're doing in all elements of your marketing. One of the ways that I identify marketing, personally, I break marketing down into 8 elements. There's awareness. Are people aware of your brand? Then there's engagement. Are they engaging with your brand? There's lead generation, conversion optimization. And then from there's something I call wow, which is an often overlooked part of the marketing, meaning that once someone gives you their credit card and they become a customer, what are you doing to wow them? Then there's a customer ladder. How are you elevating your customers to becoming raving fans? Then there's reviews and testimonials, and then there's referrals. Well, each one of those elements, as it pertains to marketing, should have its own documented journey, its own strategy. Each one will have its own set of tools and tactics that you're going to apply, and each one will have its own set of KPIs, key performance indicators, their own definition of success. And
totally. Can I stop you for a second there?
Absolutely. Please
what
do.
What we're saying is strategic is step back and look at that big picture in all of those areas and how they're going to help you to achieve your goal. Because what I'm hearing you say is, right, each one has the tools and tactics that you're going to get involved in, but you need to step back and have the big picture and see how they're going to be measured, at the highest level, and then also drill that down to a lower level and to document that so that you can track it and you can communicate it and have some clarity around how that is the feedback that you're getting from the results that you're getting. Is that correct?
And Penny, you just said the magic word, because here's the one word that sums up everything. And you just said it. It's clarity. That's where clarity comes from.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the clarity, you just feel you get distracted by all of the squirrels and shiny objects. When you don't have clarity, you have these false definitions of success. And it just feels like you're busy doing a lot of busy work,
Right.
which may make you feel like something's happening. But in reality, when you look back, when you look back what happened over the last year, over the last quarter, nothing really moved.
Right. Is it moving the needle? Because, I think it's so important because it's so easy to get caught up. I had somebody last week, she's like, Instagram is blowing up. You should be on Instagram. You've got to be on Instagram. So this person's making so much money and this person's doing that. And this is how you do it. And they were going on. And I was like, that's great. But my target market isn't there. So that's not a good approach for me. That's not strategic for me, for my end result. So I think it is so easy to get caught up in, somebody telling you this channel or this or that. And that's just an individual tactic and has to be part of that bigger picture if it makes sense.
100%. Absolutely.
So let's dive deeper. And I interrupted you when you were saying, the strategy and the tactics. So you said the biggest mistake that people make is that they are focused on the tactics. So give us an example that you've seen of, people just going down the wrong path.
We can use the example that you just shared. Someone says you need to be on Instagram. Really? Okay, let's go do some Instagram. Well, then you're like, I don't know how to do Instagram, so I'm going to hire someone to do it. I'm going to hire an agency. And then you go hire the agency and say, do some Instagram for me. They're like, great. How much money you want to spend? I want to spend $3,000 a month on Instagram. Great. Give me your $3,000. The agency's busy. They're posting. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing on Instagram. They receive very little direction from you because it's your hope that they can do everything that they need to do because they're Instagram experts, but there hasn't been a transfer of knowledge. They don't know enough about you and your brand and your messaging and who your ideal customer is. And then what happens is when the process or the system doesn't work, and let me back up for just a moment, and oftentimes there has been no clearly defined definition of success, of what it looks like.
Right.
And as the business owner, you don't even know what success should be. So oftentimes the success is camouflaged by showing these meaningless numbers. Like, look, you've had this many people that saw your brand, these vanity metrics, I like to call them. That's like, ooh, and you make you feel good and you think it's working. But here's what it comes down to. Did it generate revenue? If it didn't generate revenue, unless the KPI specifically didn't call for that, it probably didn't work. And the business owner ends up down that path. Sometimes they stay down that path because they don't know what else to do. Right. And they keep seeing the metrics, thinking something's working and it's not, because they didn't step back, get the clarity to figure out what the documented journey should be, what tools and tactics should be and should not be used. And as a matter of fact, what should not be used is often more important than what should be used. And then identifying what that definition of success is. And that's not a new concept. Sun Tzu, from The Art of War, right? So this is 5000 BC or 100 BC. I don't know, long time ago, famous Chinese general. But he says that strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory, and tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So this is something that's been tried and true for thousands of years.
It just baffles me, right? How it's so easy for people to get caught up in that mistake. So I'm so glad that we clarified that so that people who are listening can really step back and say, no matter where you are in your business, I know that you've probably done this too. I've worked with people who've been in business 10 years, but they still are following this sort of spray and pray type of approach that is not working. So wherever you are in your business, listeners, step back and evaluate those three areas. And let's take a look at how we really get clear on defining our best persona. So break it down for us. What's the first thing that we need to do in that process?
So the first thing you need to do is identify who you want to do business with. Oftentimes, there's been very little energy and effort placed on that. And when I say who, we're not talking about a specific, we're not talking about, well, here's what I'm talking about when I say who. Who is your ideal customer, the most desirable customer in terms of the goods and services that you sell, their mannerisms, their characteristics? It's going through a process of understanding their pain points, their issues, their concerns, their triggering events. How did they get here? How did they get to the point to need your goods and services? Why didn't they get to this point 6 months ago? Why not 6 months from now? Why now? Have you thought about that?
Why
what
now? So let's take an example, if we might. Let's take, a consultant, right? Somebody who's a consultant, they're going to say that everybody is there, right? They cross different industries in their consulting practice. So, as that consultant, how do I define who that person is? And sometimes it's the CEO and sometimes it's the CTO, right? Sometimes it's different roles in the organization that might be hiring me. So how does that person create that clarity?
So if we think about it, and for that consultant, they may have multiple personas. As a matter of fact, most organizations will have multiple personas, but the motivation behind the HR person that's going to hire you, the motivation behind the CEO versus the motivation of the VP of sales, the need that needs to be met, all three of those individuals are completely different.
Yeah.
And understanding that is absolutely key. And if you're going to create messaging that's designed to attract those individuals, and you've only thought about the HR manager in regards to how your consulting is going to help the HR manager, and the CEO of the organization happens to come across your messaging, it's not going to resonate. If the sales and marketing manager comes across your messaging, it's not going to resonate. So where a lot of people go wrong is they start creating the messaging without any of the three, and they want to have this generalized messaging, right, this generalized approach, because you truly believe that your goods and services is right for everyone on the planet. But the problem is it ends up resonating with no one. So if you had those three elements, I would say let the people choose the path. If you're a consulting company, imagine this. If someone came across your website or your messaging, maybe you ask them, at the very beginning, if you're a CEO, take this path. If you're in sales, take this path. And if you're HR, take this path. And now you can create messaging that's designed to address their pain points. So this way, their needs are being met. You've spent the time looking at their belief system. What is their belief system in regards to if they take action and everything goes perfectly? What is their belief in regards to a desired outcome? What's their belief system if it doesn't work too well and it all goes bad or they don't take action? What other potential noise might they be seeing in the marketplace? What are their peers telling them? There's some people, some of their peers are going to say, you don't need to get a consultant. They're a waste of time. Others are going to say, yes, you need a consultant. As a matter of fact, let me connect you with mine. Now you're competing with that consultant. What are they doing about it? Are they even going to like Google or Instagram or LinkedIn to look for a solution to this particular problem? And then how are you building trust from the electronic, in this digital space? And being able to document those and just answer the questions. And that's really what the world's best buyer persona does. It guides you through answering these questions so you can create a story or a narrative that really gets into the emotions. Because I don't care what business you're in, you're doing business with humans. Now, maybe in a few years when Elon Musk gets us to Mars, maybe we'll be doing business with Martians, right? But today we're doing business with humans, and humans are emotional creatures. There's enough data to support that notion. So if you want to connect with them on an emotional level, when they don't have the ability of meeting with you belly to belly, which is also very difficult to scale, what can you do? Improve your messaging that puts you in a position to increase the likelihood of you connecting with them on an emotional level. And that's really what the world's best buyer persona system is designed to do, is to get you to see the world through their lens instead of your own. And as you start to see the world through the lens of your ideal customer, you can create messaging and resources that's designed to be more beneficial to them than you. Did that make sense, Penny?
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back to the point of taking back time, right? For you, if you're a salesperson or, you're running the company, that you are quicker to the right people who are going to be qualified and are going to want to take that journey with you. You're going to tighten that sales cycle, which is so powerful because you're hitting the right people and not wasting your time with people who aren't the right people. Am I getting it?
You're absolutely right on the mark. That's what this is designed to do. It speeds up the sales cycle. You know what I mean? If you think what slows down the sales cycle, what slows down the sales cycle oftentimes is trust. You know what I mean? They've got to get to the point to where they trust you.
Right.
They got to get a chance to know you and like you and make sure that you have a solution that benefits them. Well, if you've thought about that, and not just thought about it, but you've actually applied some sort of a documented journey where the world's best buyer persona can be the foundation of that particular component, you can have the resources, the information, the data that's required for that cold prospect or warm prospect to know, like, and trust you much faster than what's typical. In effect, get in a rapport with you so they can make the decision faster. And it works.
Because you're speaking their language, right? If you've really put that time in to think about it, that means they feel like you know me, you know what my problem is. And, that does build trust like that in that context, is because you're speaking the same language. If I'm going to come and I'm going to speak German to a French person, right, they're going to be like, this person doesn't know me. They're not speaking to me. So
right.
That's an important distinction, just really to understand, is that time we mentioned in the beginning about stepping back, right? Stepping back and really thinking through this is one of those things. They tell you the statistics are, if you spend 10 minutes the first part of your day planning, you're going to save 2 hours of wasted time. So I wonder, is there any statistic that tells us for a certain amount of time spent upfront defining the persona, how much, is there any data behind that?
No, the only data that I really have are case studies. Fortunately, I have a marketing agency, so this has been the core of our agency. It helped us grow. It helped us shift. Do an amazing shift during the COVID pandemic. We're located here in Las Vegas. A lot of our clients were here in Las Vegas and they had to shut down. So we had to pivot the market, industries that we were targeting very, very quickly, because many of our clients just had to close their doors temporarily. That was was a very, very difficult exercise to go through. It was scary when we go back a couple of years ago, but our agency has thrived. We did the exercise with many of our clients, and many of our clients have thrived during this process because the world shifted and they were able to shift almost at the same time, where their competitors were still doing exactly what they were doing. There's a book by Scott Galloway, Post-Corona. In his book, he mentions that the world basically moved 10 years ahead over this 2-year Corona crisis. And if the world shifted by 10 years in a 2-year span, wouldn't it be safe to say that your prospects, they shifted, their mindsets, their desires, their motivations have shifted? And what we discovered was, being able to implement and change their buyer persona on a moment's notice allowed the messaging to shift where their buyers were then, or where they were at now versus where they used to be.
That's a really good point. How often we should be reviewing this buyer's persona, do you feel?
It's the best personas are turned into the story narrative, and they're part of everything that an organization does. Imagine this for just a second. Let's say a typical organization, they have someone who's doing their SEO and someone who's doing their paid ads. They have a sales team. They've got a customer service team. This singular document can be a unifying component that brings all of these departments together. And if they bring in some other outside entity, they can say, this is who our ideal customer is. And everyone can work synergistically. So going back to your question, how often should they change it? As often as it needs to, because it is an instrumental part of your business day to day. So if you're measuring it,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're measuring it and you have the tools in place, at some point you may realize it's less effective than what it used to be. If it's becoming less effective instead of more effective, let's go back into the persona. Let's go back into their customers and let's see if there has been a shift in our market.
I remember when I was in this market research company and I had been asked to come in and sort of take a look under the hood in the sales organization and, what the strategy was for that particular division. And, I asked, when was the last time that we really asked our customers what was important to them? And this is a market research company, right? This is what they do for a living for other people. And the answer was crickets. Well, we know what our customers want, they said. And they didn't, because when we went out and asked, that gave us a competitive advantage in the marketplace because we invited them to come in for a workshop. And it also was prospects, people who weren't our customers yet. So we can, also get to know what their needs are. And it was just amazing. The shift of what came up was, we don't just want the depth of the data. What's become more important is the speed of the data. And we just weren't aware of that. And our competitors weren't aware of it. And we were glad that we got a hold of it first. So I think that it needs to happen more often than people think, that it should be a part of every year's sort of process. Because I think we go through the motions of, okay, customer loyalty, let's send out a questionnaire and things like that. But we don't really dig deeper so that we can see where is the market going. COVID made that happen, right? But we shouldn't need that catalyst. We should create our own catalyst on a regular basis. What's your thought process around that?
Right on the money. The short version to the answer, because I know I gave you a long-winded answer, is a year is minimum. But the reason that I'm afraid of that answer is because the world's been speeding up. It has this exponential growth. today, yeah, maybe it's a year, but 3 years from now, you may have to do it, every 6 months or every quarter. And what I'm afraid of is that sometimes I'll give someone a hard, fast answer and they just think that's gospel and that's what they follow. And that's not the case. It's something that you need to change or make adjustments as often as it needs to be. If we think about sports, I can use football as the analogy. If the coach of a football team is running a certain play and they keep shutting them down, it's the coach's job to jump into the playbook to change the play calling. It's not working, but
right. We have to get into relationship with our results, right? And that's why if you're not tracking it and you don't set those KPIs, you don't know that it's not working, that you're missing the target.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Awesome. So what else do I'm trying to think of some deeper questions to ask, but what's a question that you very often get asked that I haven't asked yet?
Well, it's funny. And I can tell you the question, and people ask it a wide variety of ways. When organizations approach me, however they say it, basically what they're asking is, Stormie, how can I outsell my competition? Or Stormie, how can I outgrow what I've done in the past? And that's usually, if you think about the core of your questions, if you're an entrepreneur listening to the show, and if you go back to the core, what are you really asking? You're asking, how can I outsell or sell more than I've ever sold before? And how can I outgrow more than I've ever, grown before? And I use those opportunities to let organizations know that I believe you have two choices. You can go out, spend. And I don't think that's the best route because, unless you have unlimited money, and that's still not the best route, you can outspend or you can outsmart. And it's impossible to outsmart unless you step back, take a breath, look at what's happening, and figure out what your strategy is going to be, and really applying a structured plan and strategy. You do spend a lot more time up front, but it just pays the dividends in the end. And those are really the two questions that people are asked. Wide variety of ways of asking, but really, how can I outsell? How can I outgrow? And I take them back to the concept of being able to outsmart. If they're in agreement with that, they're like, okay, I get you. That makes a lot of sense. Let's continue the conversation. On the other hand, when they push back like, oh, I don't believe in that, and that's not what I'm going to do, I don't have the time, energy, and effort to convince them as to why they're wrong. I just let them do what they've always been doing.
So what's the time frame to step back and to create a proper persona? Like what kind of time frame could somebody expect?
Well, one of the first things I encourage people to do, well, let me answer that question directly. If someone were to grab the book and say, I'm going to use this book and build out the persona, they can do that in a day, in a half a day. They can read the book, fill out the worksheets, and they have their first version of their persona. But now they have the persona. The question is, now what do I do with it, right?
Right.
I mentioned the areas of marketing that I look at, and I like to have people rate themselves in those 8 areas, give themselves a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. Awareness, engagement, lead generation. I've already mentioned that. And then there's a success wheel that I have. It's a tool that I have. I can make access to that available to your listeners, and they can complete their own success wheel, their own marketing wheel. And when they're done, they can identify their deficiencies, their strengths, their weaknesses. And now it helps provide clarity in regards to what they should and should not be focused on. And they can look at what bridge should they be looking to complete, because oftentimes when I go into an organization, they just have an inventory of projects that they started and they haven't finished as it pertains to their marketing. And maybe they have something that's 90% complete. Well, going through this exercise may help you identify that. Let's complete that, get a win before we move on to the next project. And it's getting that clarity, breaking marketing down into bite-sized pieces across those 8 areas, determining which area is going to have the greatest impact on your business now. And then you use the world's best buyer persona as the hub that drives that wheel.
Love it. So you said you might be able to provide a link for the users to download that wheel for them to get a feeling for that.
As a matter of fact, I can share it. If you're listening to this show right now, if you go to outsmarttools.com, super easy URL, outsmarttools.com, you're going to see a multitude of links on that page. The first link gives you a link to go pick up my book on Audible. The second link to go pick it up on Amazon. But the third link, that's free marketing wheel exercise. If you were to click that link, and you're not going to get any sales pressure, it's just a free tool. I'm not going to reach out to you and try and sell you anything. None of that stuff is happening. But if you use that link, there's going to be a series of videos that's going to walk you through and ask you a series of questions in regards to helping you identify your strength and weakness across 8 areas. You will complete the exercise. And when you're done, we're going to send you 2 emails. The first email is just going to give you results, but the second email is a Google spreadsheet where we actually create a visual representation of your marketing wheel. It takes about 5 minutes for the API to build out that marketing wheel. And now what happens, you have this breathing, living document. And let's say in a particular area, you've given yourself a score of a D. Well, let's not worry about getting into A. How do we turn that D to a C?
Right.
What would that document and strategy look like? What KPIs, what would look like, and what tools and tactics? Let's get it to a C. That would be a win. Absolutely. Then we can worry about turning that C to a B and so on. And you can do that across all 8 areas. But you're going to have clarity, and you're going to be spending your time, energy, and effort on what you should be doing and not your time, energy, and effort on what you shouldn't be doing.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So guys, go out there to outsmarttools.com and pick that up. Is there any other location that they should check you out, Stormie, so they can see more about what you're doing and how you do it?
Yeah, Outsmart Tools is a great place. I have links to a wide variety of my platforms. You can Google me, Stormie Andrews. It's with an IE. That's an easy way to see all the different stuff. I seem to pop up over there. My agency is Yokel Local. That's a HubSpot. We're a HubSpot agency partner located in Nevada. And the one project that I am extremely proud of is the Audible that just released on October 30th. And what I've done it a little bit differently on the Audible, is I've pretty much doubled the amount of content than what's in the book. So there's a lot more content. I'm being interviewed after I read the chapter. So I'm the one doing the narration. And then we have surprises in between each and every chapter that just goes deeper in depth into what you just read.
Just showing off your marketing expertise. Surprises. We all love surprises. What a great idea. I love it. See, guys, you're learning these little things. Be paying attention. That's
absolutely
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. And, is there anything else that you wanted to share before we shut down today's show?
No, that's it. Go to Outsmart Tools, take advantage of the marketing wheel exercise. You will find that just a tremendous value, and do yourself a favor. Pick up the Audible. It will blow your mind.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Penny.
And thank you all for being here. And listen, whether you're an entrepreneur and you're running your own business or not, maybe you're working in a marketing organization, in the marketing team, maybe you're in sales. There's a lot of ways that you can use this whole concept of the marketing persona, no matter what area of the business you're working in. You can use it also, if you think about it, as you're talking to your family and your kids. We're selling all the time, right? So there are ways that you can take what you're learning and apply it in other areas as well. So go out and check out his information, share it with your friends, and let us know what you got out of it. My name is Penny Zanker, and I'm here to help you work smarter. This is Take Back Time, and we'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.